the number one obstacle to becoming successful in life. The number one obstacle to becoming successful in life. That is what we're going to talk about today. But, first, please send me your validation so that I can inhale it into my nostrils and down to the depths of my soul. Send said validation by subscribing to the YouTube channel. Hit the little notification bell. Click it right now, because that is going to help you get brand new videos the moment they come out. All other platforms, please like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, tell your family, coworkers, tell your pets, tell your parakeet that I need his or her validation. The number one obstacle to becoming successful in life is your ego. We are all so wrapped up in our ego, and it causes us so many problems that get in the way of us becoming successful. Now, what am I talking about? The number one thing I think your ego does that makes it really hard for you to step outside of your comfort zone, that makes you not want to go out and try different challenges and obstacles, is that you actually think somebody cares what you're doing. You think that you are the center of the universe, and that if you go out there and try to do something new, challenging, unique, that everyone is waiting on you to fail. This is just not true. Nobody gives a flying you-know-what about what you're doing, yet you feel like they do because you're trapped inside of your ego. Ego is where feelings of rejection come from. You can't be rejected by anyone or anything unless your ego is invested in the opinion of someone else. Like, do you get that? So, like, let's say you try to do something and you get rejected. That rejection only feels like that because you're placing some sort of importance on it, like it's a core piece of your identity that something didn't work out for you. The entire sense of self that you've cultivated, this ego, is the reason why you can't move forward, because every little setback or obstacle you encounter as something personal happening to you, instead of realizing that it's just a situation that you're involved in, and that if you fail to do something, you could just dust yourself off and try it again without having such emotional investment into it. But no, we take everything personally. We have too much of a sense of self-importance. We can't take criticism. We can't take feedback. We can't go out into the world and get some of the most useful feedback that the world can ever give you. And that piece of feedback is that when you try to go and do something right away, you're not going to be very good at it. When you try to start a business and you have no business skills, you're not going to be good at it. And you were going to get that feedback in the form of nobody buying your stuff. But what do most people do when they try to start a business and no one buys their stuff? It's all ego. They're thinking about me. Nobody likes my business. Nobody wants to buy my products. Well, your business and your products are not about you. They are about providing solutions and entertainment, or whatever the product is meant to provide for other people. It has nothing to do with you. Even me creating this YouTube channel, I am creating it because I like shooting videos. I like being on YouTube. I like making a living as a creator. But if I was totally over-invested in myself and didn't create content that you wanted to watch, content that you wanted to read, I would be a failure. And I see a lot of creators who are failures because they have too much of an investment in their own ego. If something they tried doesn't work, their reaction should be to simply go back to the drawing board and figure out what does work and come at it. You know, if we didn't have so much of an ego of investment, we would just be relentlessly going after all of our goals. You understand that that's the reason why people don't go after their goals, right? It's very simple. It's because we think that failing to achieve a goal means it says something about us, which it doesn't. It doesn't have to be, a hit to your identity if things don't go your way. And, ego manifests itself in so many different forms. There's the need for validation, the need for acceptance. Like, why do you think we wear name brand clothes, drive nice cars, live in nice houses? If we didn't care about the opinions of other people and had no ego investment, we wouldn't do any of these things, right? And this isn't to say that you should have no desires, that you should not care about the validation of other people at all, and that you should just be like this emotionless robot who doesn't, care what anyone thinks for any reason at all. Like, no, you live in a world with other people. There are certain elements of working with others that having self-awareness about yourself is important. But it doesn't have to be this huge ego investment every single time. And this is something that I personally struggle with in many areas. As much as I have been successful and have worked hard trying to do all these different things, I still get caught up in traps of my ego all the time, right? I should be further along on YouTube. Why? Says who? It's just my ego talking. If someone leaves a negative comment on my work and I take it personally, A, that means I'm identifying with it as being true, and B, I'm only reacting negatively to that because it's a hit to my ego. If you were able to fully rid yourself of the fear of rejection and embarrassment, you would be unstoppable. That's all it is. We're afraid of being rejected. We're afraid of embarrassment. And, that goes all the way back to our evolutionary wiring, where if we were abandoned from the tribe, we would be left alone to die. Social pecking order has real implications in an evolutionary sense, but doesn't really apply to us any longer in the modern world. But we are still controlled by that ego, by that amygdala, by these very primal feelings we feel when faced with rejection and embarrassment. So what should we do with these feelings? Well, the number one thing that you can do with these feelings, you're not going to like my answer, is you're just going to have to act in spite of them. And if you do it enough times, you realize you're not going to die. Like, you realize if you put yourself in situations that are outside of your comfort zone, and maybe you do get rejected, maybe you do face embarrassment. Even think of a moment in your life where you've been embarrassed in a certain situation. Yeah, it feels bad in the moment, but it's not like you're still thinking about every single moment you got embarrassed, for however many decades you've been alive. No, it passes. So these things become easier. Putting yourself out there becomes easier. Challenging yourself and growing, it becomes easier over time. But most people never get out of the starting gate because they're super stuck in that ego paradigm and thinking that everything has to work quickly or else it's an indictment on you. So you have to get out of that. And, the funniest thing is that the less ego that you have, the less invested you are in yourself, and the more you're just focusing on the process of whatever it is that you're doing, then you get better and you get confidence. So it's like, because of your self-absorption, you don't have the confidence that you want to follow through with all the goals that you have. So the way to get the confidence is to let go of your sense of self, to let go of your ego. And I know all this sounds very esoteric, but it's true. And more, you just have to almost put yourself in the position of other people as opposed to yourself. Like, if you are trying to start a blog and write a bunch of articles, think about what it would be like to be the other person who's reading your stuff. Are they sitting there going, ha ha, ha ha, Io wrote a bad blog post, he sucks, I hate him, blah, 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 blah. No. If they don't like it, they're just going to click, move on to the next thing, forget who I am. I am never going to register in their mind whatsoever. I like doing the experiment of go out in public sometime and just stand there and just watch people. Nobody is paying attention to you at all. You might as well not even be there. So the same thinking applies to every area of life. No one really cares what you're going to do with your life. So on the one hand, that's kind of a bad thing because You want recognition for all the hard work you put into something. And when you do become successful and people do start to notice you, they don't see all the things that you were doing in the background to get that good at what you're doing. So you kind of feel a little bit underappreciated in that regard. But the benefit of it is that when you're on the come up, nobody is paying attention to you. You know, I have this big kind of following that I've built on Medium and writing in other places, but on YouTube, I have to earn my stripes on YouTube. And I love that because I get to practice and get better in kind of relative obscurity before that spotlight comes on. I get to put my stuff on my lesser channels like Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook and practice while I don't have a ton of eyeballs on me, right? And I have no ego about YouTube. I mean, I have some of an ego just because I want things to go well, but I'm not taking every video that doesn't go viral as an indictment on how successful I'm going to be over the long term when it comes to putting together these videos. And so that's what you have to understand. Everything that you want in life is going to be a process of long-term delayed gratification. And you have to be willing to submit your ego in order to do that. Because most people, they just can't deal with kind of the negative feedback that comes from being a beginner in any scenario. It's too much. It's too much for them because it conflicts with their sense of self. We would rather live in this sense of self and this ego and identity that we kind of paint this picture of this potential person that we could be. And we like masturbating mentally to that fantasy of what we could be. We all think we could start a business. We all think we could become amazing writers. We all think we could put together a YouTube channel. We all think we could build an amazing network and have money, status, this amazing career. We think we could do all of those things, and our ego protects us by telling us this narrative, this story that we can play in our head while we're daydreaming and living a life that is not serving us and living a life that's below what we're capable of. But at least we get to tell ourselves our story of how we have potential. But then when you go out into the real world and you have to field test this idealistic image of yourself and it smacks right against reality, then that chips away at that self-image. You can no longer rely on that crutch of potential you. You have to deal with the fact that maybe you're not as competent in certain areas as you imagined yourself. And that's hard to go through. Understanding that you need to get better and that you might not be good, it's hard to go through. Taking blows to your ego is hard to go through. Take my new book, Real Help, which you should go out in stores and buy immediately because it is awesome. I went through a couple rounds of editing with 3 separate editors, and they chewed my manuscript to shreds. Like the first draft they went through, they called into question not just my words, but the core philosophy of self-improvement that I had been working on for years trying to refine. They just like poo-pooed it, and they were like, oh, why do you think this? Do you have evidence to back this up? What do you mean by that? Okay, you didn't really elaborate on this here. Here, oh, well, this is all just empty fluff. Oh, yeah, this is BS. Yeah, remove this whole paragraph. Remove this whole chapter. Like, this chapter kind of sucks. Doesn't even fit with the entire narrative. Don't know why you put it there. And I went through that over and over and over again. 6 different rounds of editing where they really kind of struck to the core of my ego. And I've had experiences with editors where, like, I would get angry. I'm like, Jesus, why are you being so harsh and critical? But they were trying to make me better. And I did end up submitting my ego, and I became coachable. That's why I think I've had a lot of success in life, is because I'm willing to be coachable. I'm willing to listen and just take directions. A lot of people can't take directions because of their ego. They think they know how to do things. But if you knew so well how to operate your life, then you wouldn't be looking to mentors and educational resources to help you. Now, would you? If you had everything figured out, you wouldn't be searching for answers. So if you are searching for answers, why would you question the person who's trying to give you the answers instead of just doing what they say first and then judging your results after that? And that's what a lot of people do. I've had students who I've tried to teach them writing, and I've tried to teach them like my style to which they can incorporate my style and then hone their own voice later. I can teach them habits and frameworks they can use, but I've had some students, they'll give me pushback. And I'm like, why would you give me pushback? I've been writing way longer than you. I have way more of an audience than you. I have way more experience than you. I know more subtle nuances about writing in my pinky than you do in your entire brain, yet you don't want to take my advice. But you hired me to help you, meaning that you didn't know what to do. So people get caught in these irrational loops of behavior because of the ego. You know, we would all like to think that we have a handle on our life. And that's probably the number one blow to your ego that you really have to get under control, is that if you knew how to do everything so well, you wouldn't be in the position you're at right now. Like, most people would rather be in a non-advantageous position in their life while pretending that they know it, to think that they know what they're doing, as opposed to just admit that they don't have the answers and that they need to work on themselves. You know, that's kind of the entire aversion to self-improvement in the first place. A lot of people are very averse to self-improvement. A lot of people mock and turn their nose up at self-improvement, and it's because of their ego. It's because having to focus on self-improvement means there's something that needs to be improved. It means there's some inadequacy and deficiency. And not that you need to come from self-improvement from the sense that you have inadequacies and deficiencies like inherently, because that's also ego-driven stuff too. But kind of tangibly and pragmatically, you have deficiencies in that you need to focus on better strategies, better behaviors, better habits and insights to kind of get you where you want to be. So if you want to be successful in life, you have to learn how to remove your ego from the equation. Like, you're not all that important to be caring so much about what other people think, about getting embarrassed and being rejected. Like, why do you care? That's the number one question to ask yourself. And it's a question I ask myself when I'm dealing with situations. I'm like, why do I care what anyone thinks about what I'm doing at all? Why would I limit my potential as a human being because of what other people think? Why would I get in my own way of success by overly judging myself, by overly thinking I know what I'm doing, by overly wanting to preserve this idea of potential me, right? So it's a never-ending battle and struggle with the ego. But the more you lower it, the higher your chances of success. Okay, Real Help is the book. Go and buy that book on Amazon. It's in the description below. Check it out. Check out all the links below. Scroll all the way down to the bottom of the description and you'll see links to the book. You'll see links to other social media channels where I share different content and similar content through different prisms. If you're on YouTube, like the video, give me the thumbs up, leave a comment, leave the 2 cents, and I'll see you on the next video.